We're here today at the Davis Dominguez Gallery, and we're going to go inside and take a look at the work of Debra Salopak and Tim Murphy. This is a pretty big size piece here, about 3 foot by 3 foot. I don't know if you can see this. We'll get up close to it, and it's got this kind of brushwork going on in it. I actually find that it hurts the painting in some ways. It seems really contrived. It looks too determined, and it's not helping the illusion at all. If anything, it kills it a little bit. But from a distance, it's quite beautiful. Big, giant, puffy cloud over the landscape. These two pieces over here I'm particularly fond of. From a distance and even up close, I think they're gorgeous. I really like these. Man, I think there's a power to this. See, now in these, I think what's happening for me is that the brushwork, unlike the one over there, is actually articulating something, and it doesn't seem so self-conscious. And I love the way that it trails off over here, and it becomes smoother, almost palette knifed on in a way. And I think it's a nice combination for me. I think what she's got is this luminosity and this light in this one too, and similar effect in this one too, David. I think that the cloud with that really harsh light right here is so beautiful. I like these. You're not.
That's crazy.
No.
They're a little forced. The lighting is a little forced.
I think you have a point about that. I think all of them are a little bit forced, maybe. You know, they're definitely imagined. I don't think these are necessarily direct from observation. This is another piece by Debra Salopak, and this is North is Right, South is Left, #1. It's a beautiful little piece, the wonderful lavender sky. It's got a depth to it, really simple and minimalist. Beautiful light coming across the horizon line, and kind of the earthy tones that you see down here. She's working here on these panels, which are cradled from behind, so some sort of a prefab gesso panel, I'm assuming. Really quite a lovely little piece, though. And then over here, I actually think these are really nice. These series of tiny little, what do you think, David, like 6 inches by 6 inches?
More like 5 by 5.
These are oil on paper. Really simple, really minimalist, almost kind of a little bit like a Rothko, but not quite. They have a little bit more solidity to them and a bit more reference to the landscape. Like in this one in particular, you can see the sky and the cloud. Look at this one though. I like this. This is beautiful.
This one is too.
Yeah, that's really nice. The tiny little cloud just flecking in right there. Sweet. No, I like this series. I think this is gorgeous. Really nice. They're mounted on behind glass. Here's a little piece. Well, not so little. It's like a 3 foot by 3 foot piece again. Evening light south, and you can see that it's just a little. It just doesn't have a. I don't know. It just doesn't have shape to it in some ways. I'm not quite. I believe in it. It's kind of murky. She either needed to pull further back, get a little more abstract, or maybe move in and tighten it up some. It just seems like it's somewhere in between. Oh, and this one's really not working for me too well. This grass doesn't seem to know what it wants to be. I guess it's corn, maybe. I don't know. I guess I just like I think in these there's sort of a Turner-esque quality to it.
Yeah.
You know, it has that tumult and that kind of energy that you see in his work and the beautiful light.
Albert Kuyp.
I don't know him.
Albert Kuyp.
Albert Kuyp? No.
No.
I'll have to look him up. How do you spell it? K-E-I-C-Y-P-T?
Kuyp.
Never heard of it.
He was a Dutch painter.
Okay.
16th century.
That makes sense.
I saw a retrospective.
Albert Bierstadt, kind of? He's one of the... Okay. There's something about that light in this one. And well, I'm sort of a sucker for the clouds, so she got me on that.
I love clouds.
And then we'll just take a quick sweep here across of Tim Murphy's work, these kind of hard edge geometric abstractions, all the way over to this kind of, what would you call this, like a petroglyphy, like a glyphy kind of, sort of a glyph quality to it.
Certainly.
Something a little more organic even.
I see references to Paul Klee.
Paul Klee, yep. Absolutely.
There's a certain vocabulary he's using with his mark making and his shapes.
Yep. Yeah, there's
a geometric.
Yeah, he's got those geometric components over here combined with the linear things that seem to be at times almost framing something, or perhaps residue or remnants of something that existed, like a petroglyph or of sorts. And then over to here to something that seems more iconic. I mean, this almost references like kind of with those headdresses. I'm thinking like Inca, or
the piece is called the Three Graces.
The Three Graces. Okay.
There you have it.
But all the palette in his work is really subdued. I mean, this is probably the most high key, with the exception of one or two more. But this gray, almost washy quality to it. And here,
this is really has a real playfulness. It's quite.
And I'm thinking of like late de Kooning almost.
It all has a de Kooning flavor.
Yeah, absolutely. And then this goes back. Well, these two big, strong foot-like anchors in the middle. I think of Gustin, and the dots, those little dots at the bottom. I think of Gustin. What's this one called, Dave?
It's called Platinimus.
Platinimus?
Platinum.
This one really has a Gustin-esque quality to it.
Absolutely.
Even the creaminess of the coloration to some extent. The subtle fleshy tones that you get kind of in this area here. And then this linear cartoon quality, but it doesn't resolve into an image in the end. It still remains fairly abstract. I think this is probably, for me, the strongest piece in the show. I really like this one. I'm digging it a lot. Are you more inclined towards these geometric ones then?
No. I feel like what we're doing here is we're looking down on a desk, and these are documents.
I think that makes sense, because you can almost see the outline of something as it traces through. And you see that edge, and then there's all these documents sitting there. What happens to be the title of it? A Place for Blue. And then the notion of like a painting as a surface, as a desktop, it harkens back somewhat to early collages work.
It becomes abstract also.
Yeah. So there you have it, folks. Wonderful show of landscapes by Debra Salopak and abstractions by Tim Murphy. We're out here tonight, going to have some a slice of pizza at Riley Craft Pizza and Drink. Wait, what did this used to be?
It used to be a mortuary.
This is the first pizza delivered. It is the Yukon Gold Pecorino Rosemary Pizza. It looks phenomenal. Plenty of cheese. The crust has good structure and a little bit of a char to it. The cheese is really pungent.
Goes over the crust.
Cheese goes over the crust, yeah. Oh, those potatoes are a little thick cut. I like my potatoes a little thinner.
This pizza reminds me of Tim Murphy's paintings.
I'm getting mostly just the cheese flavor with the texture of the potato. You know,
Actually, you know what would be really good on this pizza?
what?
Before they grate the pecorino and over the potatoes, thinly sliced pear.
I mean, I was going to say that maybe even the palette, you know, that he's using, that sort of blander palette.
Well, the palate's the same, but you know,
There's also a thickness to the potato that sort of reminds me of there's a kind of density to his work in some ways, a kind of ham-fistedness. Is the sausage fennel, it has fennel pollen on it. Oh yeah.
Have you been to Laura?
No, not yet.
That's really good, tasty pizza. The crust isn't holding up as well in this one. A little bit soggier. But the The sausage comes through really nice, very sweet. David, I'm eating the fennel one right now. You eating the sausage fennel?
Fabulous.
It's good. It's a little dramatic in some ways.
That'd be great.
I mean, I would equate this to Debra's really dramatic cloud paintings, where it's got a lot of flavor.
This pizza reminds me of the big cloudscape with all the golden hue.
The egg and speck. It's really good. The egg is super creamy, really luscious, and the speck has a kind of, it's like prosciutto, a little bit more intense maybe.
I think there's a couple paintings that there's spot right on. She nails it.
Right.
But I think most of the paintings are either inconsistent, or the brush strokes are muddy, or she's overworking the canvas.
So if you look at, say, for example, the cornfield versus the two clouds that I love,
Yeah.
and even the big cloud that I was a little critical of because of the brush strokes,
Yeah.
there's a remarkable difference between those.
Right.
And there's a few paintings that we didn't actually talk about on video,
Right.
that were up front in the little front foyer area, and those weren't all that exciting either.
No.
Comparatively. I mean, in my mind, when I think of the work, it's really a lot about the drama of those cloud pieces.
Right.
And then in countering that, and sort of counterbalance to that, was the real minimalist pieces.
Yes.
So I looked at the video. I had the privilege of looking at the video again, and thinking as I was watching it about those little tiny 5 by 5 inches.
That were all framed.
Yeah. And I just keep thinking, man, they were really lovely.
They were lovely. 12 by 12.
Yeah, like the 12 by 12s.
Those were her most successful.
You like those the most.
Yeah.
And
I think those she's really good with that more intimate size.
I think
What I appreciate with this new body of work is that she's really pushed herself in really learning how to work with paint.
Yeah.
Because in the past I've seen a number of her shows at Davis Dominguez, and her palette has always been very subdued and very simple.
Yeah.
With just a field, a landscape with a couple shrubs,
Yeah.
and a sky, and a lot of glazing.
And I think that you're right, that she's definitely pushing it now, and she's experimenting with trying to articulate. For example, the larger cloud painting, she's really quite articulate there. And
yeah, but then I think about the great skyscape, cloudscape artist, Constable.
I knew you were going to bring that up at some point.
I mean, he did thousands and thousands of studies.
I know.
And she needs to keep working it.
And he was definitely doing on the spot. I mean, he's doing them plein air, the studies, and then taking that knowledge and that freshness. If you look at his work back, and I think Debra's work, and that's the part where you talk about it being somewhat forced. In a way, is like
well, his skyscapes are so spontaneous.
Yeah.
And he just, the fluidity of that brush stroke, he just nails it.
And that goes back to my point about that first big cloud painting I talked about.
The gold hue.
No, actually the other one, the big sort of puffy cloud, centralized. And that one, for me, is of the three big cloud paintings, the weakest of the three. He doesn't seem to be fluid with it. I mean, I talked specifically about the brush strokes, and it's just that. It's
overworked.
Well, and they seem almost like really calculated brush strokes as opposed to spontaneous, like say a Constable, for example. Yeah, I agree. And that's where that
comes into play. Whereas the other two have a little bit more, for me, of the naturalness, if not spontaneity, then a natural. They conform to the contours of the clouds more, as opposed to being this kind of figure-8 stroke.
Yeah.
And that's where I think those two were more successful for me.
Right.